All right, man. So we have Shedeur Sanders putting that work in. Even Deshaun Watson, Casey Concepcion, Jerry Jeudy, they are geared up, ready to go for training camp. Looking to have a hell of a quarterback competition on our hands. We got to get into some Shedeur Sanders footage, and we have a former Brown, Joe Haden, brutally honest on what he feels about Shedeur Sanders in this quarterback competition. We got to get into it, man. Welcome to Keep the Vision.
He's supposed to be QB2. On paper, that's all he is. But a locker room legend just looked into a camera and said something that changes everything for Shedeur Sanders. Training camp hasn't even opened yet, but inside the Cleveland Browns building, there's a battle brewing that nobody expected to be this real, this fast. And now, a man who used to wear the same helmet, a man who knows exactly what it feels like to walk those halls, is refusing to stay quiet about what he sees coming. This is the story of a rookie who was never supposed to be the center of attention. This is the story of a franchise quarterback with a fully guaranteed contract who might be running out of time. And this is the story of a former Brown who just said the one thing every fan in Cleveland has been thinking, but was too afraid to say out loud. Let's get into it. Cleveland has been chasing stability at quarterback for what feels like forever. Different faces, different systems, different promises, and every single time something falls apart. So when the front office handed Deshaun Watson that fully guaranteed deal, the expectation was simple. He was going to be the answer. He was going to be the guy who finally ended the search. That was the plan. But plans in the NFL have a way of falling apart, and this one has been falling apart in slow motion for years now. 2 Achilles tears, a shoulder injury he tried to play through, off-field controversy that cost in game time and cost the fan base its patience. And through all of it, the production on the field has become the story nobody in that building wants to talk about. 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Numbers that don't scream elite quarterback. Numbers that scream a player still searching for whatever he used to have. And that's exactly where this story turns. Because while Watson has been trying to find his old form, a rookie with ice in his veins has been quietly doing exactly what he was built to do. Shedeur Sanders. Same last name that carries generations of football swagger. Same confidence that made people either fall in love with him or root against him before he ever threw a pass in the league. Camp footage started circulating. ESPN Cleveland cameras catching him working, locked in, focused, moving like a guy who already knows something the rest of the world hasn't figured out yet.
Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit the bell notification, and hype the video. That would be greatly appreciated. Let's get right into things. So this is courtesy of ESPN Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders and the guys getting that work in. Let me refresh. Okay, you see it here. Shedeur, man, getting ready for camp. I think you're looking at QB1. I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to be able to beat him out.
And that's when the conversation started shifting. Quietly at first, then louder. Is Shedeur actually the guy? Is this competition even a competition? Enter Joe Haden. Now, understand something about Joe Haden. This isn't some outside analyst trying to create clickbait. This man played corner for the Browns. He knows this locker room. He knows what pressure looks like inside that building, and he knows exactly how fragile a quarterback competition can get once the pads come on and adjustment becomes reality. So when Haden sat down on his own show and started breaking down this quarterback situation, people leaned in, and what he said next is the reason we're even having this conversation. Haden didn't dance around it. He said flat out that he doesn't believe Deshaun Watson gets back to what he used to be. Not the 2020 version, not the guy who was putting up nearly 5,000 yards and playing like one of the most electric quarterbacks on the planet. He pointed to something specific. It wasn't really about arm talent. Watson could still sling the ball. That was never really in question. What Haden zeroed in on was the movement, the scramble ability, the thing that used to turn busted plays into touchdowns, the thing that separated him from a pocket passer. Haden compared it to what makes guys like Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick dangerous. It was never just about throwing the ball. It was the unpredictability, the ability to do both. And once you take away the legs, especially after 2 Achilles surgeries, you're not getting the same quarterback back. Not physically, maybe not even mentally. And then Haden said something that probably stung more than anything else. He compared Watson's situation to guys like Dak Prescott, players who were never really scramblers to begin with, players whose whole game lived above the neck. But Watson's game was never built that way. His superpower was his legs, and right now, those legs are the biggest question mark in the entire organization. Think about that for a second. A quarterback got a fully guaranteed contract off the strength of an athletic ability that might not exist anymore. That's the tension sitting underneath every single practice rep this offseason. And here's where it gets even more real. Haden made it clear this isn't personal. He wants Watson to succeed. He said this year is a make-or-break moment, not just for the Browns, but for Watson's entire career trajectory. Because whatever happens on that field, good or bad, becomes his resume for the rest of the league. If he plays and struggles, other teams see it. If he plays and looks even a fraction like his old self, that changes everything for his next contract, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else.
Haden spoke about the quarterback battle on his show. Let's get into it.
Reporter sounds the alarm with Deshaun Watson's catastrophic injury history. Browns reporter Nick Padone remains unconvinced that Deshaun Watson can return to his original form. He said, "I hate to put it that way. I hate to put it that blunt, clear cut."
But that's Watson's story. Right now, the story that's capturing attention is Shedeur. Because Haden didn't just tear down the current starter, he pointed toward the future. And that future, in his eyes, wears number 12. He said it directly. He's with Shedeur, not because Deshaun Watson is some washed-up player who can't help the team, but because the Browns have a young quarterback on a rookie contract who represents exactly what this rebuild needs: controlled cost, long runway, and based on what everyone has seen so far, real talent. That's the turning point in this entire story. A respected former player, someone who wore the uniform, publicly siding with the rookie over the guy holding down QB1 on paper. And if you've been paying attention to how Shedeur has carried himself since the day he stepped into that building, none of this should actually surprise you. Rewind for a second. Think about draft night. Think about how long that kid sat there, watching name after name get called, watching quarterback after quarterback come off the board while his name stayed silent. That kind of fall does something to a person. It either breaks you or it builds something inside you that never goes away. And everything since that night suggests it built something in Shedeur that most people underestimated. This is a guy who has heard every version of doubt there is. Too flashy, too confident, falls too far in the draft, media narrative after media narrative trying to define who he is before he ever got a real chance to define it himself. But confidence, real confidence, doesn't come from ignoring criticism. It comes from absorbing it and using it as fuel. And that's exactly what you see when you watch this kid work. Calm under pressure, locked in during camp, not rattled by a legacy last name that could have crushed a lesser competitor. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're breaking down everything happening with Shedeur Sanders in this Browns quarterback competition. And trust me, this story's only getting started.
I'm with the guy we need to go with Shedeur. He's not Deshaun. He's not going to be the future for the Browns. We have him as a rookie contract, under a rookie contract, young quarterback with these new parts. Let's see what we can do. So I don't think Deshaun, even if he goes out there and since we've had him, he hasn't looked that good. So I'm thinking that with the injuries and coming back,
Right. He said completely lost it.
Completely lost it is an overstatement, I say. I think that he's...
Now, here's the part that makes this whole situation even more complicated. It's not just Deshaun Watson standing in the way. Cleveland also has Jalen Vereen and Dylan Gabriel on that roster. Multiple young arms, all drafted for a reason, all waiting for their window. So when people say the Browns can just wait another year to figure out the quarterback position, that argument falls apart fast. There are already players in that building who were brought in specifically to compete for this job right now. This isn't a situation where patience is free. Every rep given to one guy is a rep taken away from another. And that pressure, that scarcity, is exactly why this camp battle matters so much. Every throw, every read, every decision under center becomes part of a much bigger evaluation. Coaches watching, front office watching, former players like Haden watching from the outside and saying exactly what they see. The fan reaction since Haden's comments went public has been loud, honestly split in ways that mirror everything Shedeur has dealt with since draft night. Some fans are furious, defending Deshaun, pointing to that lawsuit, the suspension, the injuries, saying the man deserves grace after everything he's been through. Others are done waiting. They want their rookie under center. They see the tape, they see the movement, the accuracy, the poise, and they're tired of watching a max contract sit on the field, producing numbers that don't match the price tag. Social media exploded within hours. Clips of Haden's comments got cut up, shared, reacted to by pages that cover nothing but Browns football. Comment sections turned into full-blown debates, strangers arguing about a quarterback competition like it was personal, because for a lot of these fans, it is personal. This franchise has put them through more heartbreak at the quarterback position than almost any team in the league, and after all that heartbreak, patience is running thin. That divide, that emotional tug of war between loyalty and results is what makes this quarterback competition so gripping heading into the season. It's not just about wins and losses anymore, it's about identity. What does this franchise actually believe in? Do they believe in resumes and past production, or do they believe in what's standing right in front of them in real time? Haden's comments forced that question out into the open, whether the organization wanted it there or not. But that's Deshaun's story. Right now, the story that's capturing attention is Shedeur, because Haden didn't just tear down the current starter, he pointed toward the future, and that future, in his eyes, wears number 12. He said it directly. He's with Shedeur, not because Deshaun Watson is some washed-up player who can't help the team, but because the Browns have a young quarterback on a rookie contract who represents exactly what this rebuild needs: controlled cost, long runway, and based on what everyone has seen so far, real talent. That's the turning point in this entire story. A respected former player, someone who wore the uniform, publicly siding with the rookie over the guy holding down QB1 on paper. And if you've been paying attention to how Shedeur has carried himself since the day he stepped into that building, none of this should actually surprise you. Rewind for a second. Think about draft night. Think about how long that kid sat there, watching name after name get called, watching quarterback after quarterback come off the board, while his name stayed silent. That kind of fall does something to a person. It either breaks you, or it builds something inside you that never goes away. And everything since that night suggests it built something in Shedeur that most people underestimated. This is a guy who has heard every version of doubt there is. Too flashy, too confident, falls too far in the draft, media narrative after media narrative trying to define who he is before he ever got a real chance to define it himself. But confidence, real confidence, doesn't come from ignoring criticism. It comes from absorbing it and using it as fuel. And that's exactly what you see when you watch this kid work. Calm under pressure, locked in during camp, not rattled by a legacy last name that could have crushed a lesser competitor. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're breaking down everything happening with Shedeur Sanders and this Browns quarterback competition. And trust me, this story is only getting started.
Yeah, for me, I hate to say it, but I think it's just lip service. If in my opinion, I think it may be lip service, because if I'm the head coach or the GM, you ain't really got a chance to start for me unless Shedeur goes in here and crashes out and don't get it done, because I'm not going to play you and then be stuck having to pay you something next year. Because
there's also a coaching angle nobody's talking about enough. Whoever ends up making this decision, whether it's ownership, the front office, or the coaching staff, has to live with the consequences either way. Bench the guaranteed contract quarterback too early, and it looks like a panic move, an admission that the front office misjudged everything about that deal. Stick with him too long while the rookie is clearly outperforming him in practice, and you risk losing that locker room. Players talk. Players notice who's actually earning the job versus who's just holding on to it because of a contract. That kind of resentment can spread fast in a building that's already dealt with more than its share of dysfunction. And if you strip away all the noise, all the hot takes, all the debate shows arguing back and forth, what you're left with is a young quarterback who has quietly done everything asked of him. He hasn't complained publicly. He hasn't demanded a starting job. He's just kept working, kept showing up, kept putting in that camp footage that keeps circulating online and turning heads. That's the story underneath the story. Not entitlement, not hype for the sake of hype, just a young player letting his preparation speak louder than any headline ever could. Think about the pressure that comes with that approach. It would be easy for a player in his position to lash out, to demand answers, to let frustration leak into interviews. Instead, every camera that's caught him this offseason shows the same thing, a guy locked into the work. A guy who understands that noise fades, but tape doesn't. That's a maturity that a lot of rookies, even ones without a famous last name, never actually develop this early. It also says something about how he was raised in this sport. Growing up around the game the way he did, watching his father navigate pressure, scrutiny, and constant public evaluation gave him a blueprint most rookies simply don't have. He's seen what it looks like to be doubted and to answer that doubt with performance instead of words. That background doesn't guarantee success on Sundays, but it does explain why he isn't rattled by a media cycle that would break a lot of other 22-year-olds. So, where does this go from here? Training camp will answer a lot of these questions once the pads actually come on and contact becomes real, because that's the moment Haden pointed to specifically. That's when athletic limitations, if they exist, get exposed. That's when poise under real pressure gets tested, not in a shorts and helmet practice, but in live reps that actually count. If Shedeur continues showing what he's shown so far, this conversation stops being a debate and starts becoming a formality. And if Watson can somehow find even a piece of that old explosiveness, this becomes one of the most compelling quarterback battles the league has seen in years. Either way, one thing is clear. Shedeur Sanders is no longer just a name people are watching because of who his father is. He's a name people are watching because of what he's building for himself, rep by rep, practice by practice, in a building where doubt has followed him since the very first day. And now, with voices like Joe Haden speaking up, that doubt is starting to shift into something else entirely: belief. Whatever happens this season, remember this moment. Remember the point where a former Brown looked at the tape, looked at the numbers, and said the quiet part out loud. Shedeur isn't just competing for a job, he's building a legacy in real time, and Cleveland might be watching the beginning of something they've been waiting for forever. Because at the end of the day, football doesn't care about guarantees written on paper. It doesn't care about draft position or the size of a signing bonus. It cares about who shows up when it matters, who performs when the lights are brightest, and who keeps their composure when the whole world is waiting for them to fail. That's the real competition happening in Cleveland right now, and it's only just getting started. And when the season finally kicks off, whoever is standing under center in that first game is going to be carrying more than just a playbook. He's going to be carrying the weight of every debate, every doubt, every headline that came before it. For one quarterback, that weight could confirm everything people feared. For the other, it could be the exact moment doubt turns into legacy.